There's a 300-year-old secret that economists know of that explains why some win and why most people pay for inflation. In this training, I'm going to walk you through, and I'm going to reveal that secret. I'm going to walk you through how you can benefit and how you can position yourself in this situation to actually win. So let's start with this question. If inflation hurts everyone the same, why does it feel like some people get richer while everyone else gets struggles? That's not an accident. And this is not something new. Almost 300 years ago, an economist figured out exactly who wins, who pays, and why. And more importantly, can you position yourself to be one of the winners? I'm going to show you that in this training. So most people think of inflation as simple. They think prices go up, everything costs more, we're all affected the same way. But if it were true, then inflation would hurt everyone equally. And this is not the case. The economist that noticed that nearly 300 years ago was Richard Cantillon. The real question isn't what inflation is. The real question is, how does money actually move? Here's a secret most people never get taught. Money doesn't enter the economy everywhere at the same time. It enters at specific points. And the order in which people touch that money determines who wins and who pays. Economists call that the Cantillon Effect. Let me show you how this works by drawing it out. And this is incredible. And more so, start thinking about how can you benefit from this. I'm going to show you exactly how. Okay, so let's talk about this Cantillon Effect. So I want you to imagine that there's someone here. Let's call him Fred. And Fred has a money printer. Money printer. And he can print dollars every so often. And so we're going to call him Fred the money printer. And let's just say Fred decides to print, let's just say $1 million. Okay? And he now has $1 million legally that he can use. And let's just say at the time he prints this, coffee price, it's supposed to be coffee, is $1. Now, at this point, you know what, let's just make it 100 million. And at this point, I want you to imagine for a second that you've got $100 million right now. What would you do if you're Fred? And so the first thing you'd probably do is go out and buy stuff, right? Or invest even. So let's just say the first thing Fred does is he goes to a dealership and he buys a whole bunch of awesome cars. You know, he spends $2-3 million, buys a whole bunch of Ferraris and whatever it is. And let's just say he spends over here $2 million. Okay, he's excited, he loves this, and so now, who just benefited from this? Obviously, the dealership owner. I'm going to put owner here for dealership owner. So dealership owner excited, he just got $2 million in one day. So Fred also goes out and let's just say he ends up buying stocks. Okay. And he spends, let's just say, I don't know, $60 million on stocks. Right? And he's like, you know, this is awesome. Now, who benefited from him buying the stocks? Well, what happened by him buying the stocks, the stock price went up, and so the people on the other side, the holders of the stock, also benefited. Wall Street benefited. A lot of people benefited from him doing this. And let's just say then he goes and buys some properties, and he buys several commercial properties that are on sale, right? And let's just say he invests $20 million. He's going on a buying spree. And so this is real estate. And who benefits? It's essentially the seller seller of this benefits, right? So the seller gets a nice chunk of capital. And let's just say Fred now takes all his buddies and goes to a restaurant again and throws the biggest party. And so who benefits from that? The owner of the restaurant benefits from that. Okay. And so now let's just say he does the biggest party and he spends $10 million. And he's at 20, 30, and let's just say he puts the rest in a bank. This is not a bank, but let's just say a bank, whatever. And he puts the whatever balance is. So who benefits from this? The bank. The bank itself benefits from that. Now, let's think about what do these people actually do? Because they just made some money. So let's just do this. So the dealership owner goes out and spends some of the profit on different things. These people are excited that their stock went up and their net worth went up, go out and buy more stuff and spend money on stuff. And the real estate seller here, the owner of the properties that got sold, goes out and buys stuff because he just made a killing. The restaurant owner goes out and excited that she got $10 million and again starts buying stuff. The bank now is making, has good money here. They're going to lend it out. Okay. Now, what happens then is now you've got a third level here of people that are getting part of that that money, the new money being printed, right? And then over down here, you've got, I'm going to put in here, wage earners. Wage earners. We've got people that are savers. We've got people that are living on, let's say, people on fixed income. So here's what's happening. The new money, again, we're going to call this the new money, that just got printed, is traveling from here all the way throughout the economy. But by the time they get here, what happened is, because of the new money, inflation is much higher. So the people here were buying things on, I'm going to put here, yesterday's prices. Yesterday's prices. Meaning by then, the 100 million didn't make a big impact on the prices because it's freshly, it's new. So as money moves like this in this direction, these people benefit the most. They're benefiting, and then as you get over here, these people are the ones paying for the bill, for inflation, for the new money. Because by then, there's so much money going in and all prices are going up. And so essentially, prices around here, I'm going to put here prices rise later. And so this keeps going down, like I said. And so what's happening here is that notice who's benefiting from this. The way the money moves, and this affects you and I'll show you how you can use it to your advantage. It affects early on here the government, banks and financial institutions. I'm going to write FI for financial institutions. It also positively affects asset owners. But over here, there might be a store owner who now is buying whatever to sell, but they have negatively been affected because they weren't position up here. So if you are not positioned to take advantage, you can be an asset owner, but you are, like in this case, this person owns a store, but they're not positioned to be up here. They're positioned to be over here. And so they have, let's just say, an employee. So this person gets the benefit slightly, but they're paying for it still. And this person gets paid last because this person gets paid a year later on the raise. And so what's happening is this person, the way you position yourself and how you position yourself in this affects you a lot. But you can do some pretty interesting things. So I want you to imagine this here is called the inflation lag. No inflation, all the way to inflation hitting over here. So there's a time gap. I'm going to put in here time gap that happens. And so the more you position yourself early on in the process, the more you can benefit with from this, and the people here are essentially paying the price. So this here essentially, Fred the printer essentially is the government, the Federal Reserve printing money. That's why I call them Fred. And so what you have to, and this is what Cantillon noticed. He noticed, and this again called the Cantillon Effect, is that these people are benefiting the most, and at some point, these people are paying the price for it. So this is essentially what he's talking about, is why new money does not affect everyone equally when it enters into the economy. You see that? And so these people here are the ones that pay for everything. And who gets the money first matters. Now, why am I telling you this? Because you might be thinking, well, I cannot be the dealership here. I could be an asset holder, right? But here's the other part. Let's just say you are over here. It turns out, and again, this is something that modern economy doesn't talk about, but if you create debt, and what I mean by creating debt, you're buying an asset with debt, you are doing the same thing. You become essentially like the money printer. You are now you're creating a very small money printer essentially, because you only pay this dollars in the future, but you're getting the asset today. And so you essentially create your own Cantillon effect around you. It's obviously very small, nothing like this, but you can start doing that. And as you keep doing this, and you're doing it very strategically, you become the money printer. You become Fred in this example, and you start making sure that you are creating a ripple effect and an inflation lag around you, and you are the first one essentially printing the paper. That's why you have to be thinking about, how can I use this to my advantage? And this is how this works. So the reason I pointed the coffee here at $1 is because by the time this person gets the money, coffee for this person might be $1.05. You see that? So the impact was, you can see the inflation happening here. And these people got the price at $1 for coffee. And as this lag happens and starts unfolding, these people will get a little bit of this money, but the price has already gone up. And so they're not actually increasing their, they're not benefiting from the money, because now everything already went up in price. So they got the additional 5 cents, but the coffee's already went up as well. So they're not paying, they're on the losing side of that. They're the ones paying for the new money. And so this is what I want you to be thinking about, is where are you in this inflation lag? And do you want to be the one creating that? So take the time really and think about how to use debt strategically, very strategically. We're not talking about just going out and getting stupid debt here. I'm talking about being extremely deliberate and buying assets with debt strategically, and taking time to learn how to do it so that you can create your own Cantillon effect around you. So I have some resources under this video to help you get some additional training and information. And with that, I will talk to you soon.